Hi, everybody. My name is Bianca Cefalo, and I am extremely honored to be here today. And thanks, Amanda, for the invitation. And I'm really, really privileged to share with you part of my journey and some of the key lessons that I've learned so far after my 32 plus years in the tech industry, especially the space industry. So I am a rocket scientist, which means an aerospace and astronautics engineer. And I don't look like one. This is basically the statement, the remark that I kept hearing and I keep hearing every day of my life, just because I don't really fit into what it is the label of an engineer, of a rocket scientist, or anything else that has to do with the science of tech in general. You don't look like a rocket scientist. Oh, are you really sure you want to be an engineer? Well, your parents are not into the elitist circles of the engineering. Are you sure you want to go that path? All my life, since I started joining the engineering world, I kept having remarks about what I couldn't do, what I couldn't be, what I am not meant to be doing. Yet I've done pretty much everything and more of all the things that the general public told me I couldn't be doing. My story starts, as you maybe understand from my accent, I am Italian. My journey starts in Naples, that is the city where I was born and where I started studying engineering. Since I was a child, I spent days and days with my dad in his garage. My dad is a sort of mechanic, and he still is into the automotive industry now that we have a business together that I founded in 2017. And I loved, since I was probably 7 years old, I just loved the idea of playing around. It was my playground as I was growing up, seeing my dad having so much fun with cars, mounting, dismounting, luxury cars, commercial cars, anything that has to do with that. And I was fascinated by how you see this masterpiece coming together, like it could be a Ferrari. And then the day after that masterpiece, it's uncovered. And everything that was inside that working, functioning, beautiful machine is coming to surface. All the pieces, gears, everything that makes it work, everything that is giving beauty to that piece is just behind. So I was looking at all these different elements of cars. I was fascinated by how much fun my dad was having with those cars. So I thought to myself, I want to understand what these pieces are. I want to be knowledgeable as much as my dad is, but mainly I want to grow up and have a job or do work, a project, whatever, that is bringing me joy as much as my dad is having now. So since that moment, I had no much idea of what could be my path into that kind of industry. I really didn't know. And especially because as much as my dad was working and is working with cars, no one in my family had any higher education. I'm coming from what people would usually address as a very unprivileged and elitist background. So I didn't really know. I didn't really have an example or a reference for me to understand where could I go, what should I do. However, because being Italian and our Sunday lunch ritual was basically watching Formula One races. At the time in the 90s, when I was still a child, my absolute icon was Michael Schumacher. not many of you may know. The ones that have my age probably do. And he was the major champion of Ferrari in the Formula One. So I was so fascinated by the team coming together, the challenge, the competition, the need of solving problems in such a short time and such complex problem, plus the human factor. People are driving these cars. It's extremely dangerous. So they have to be safe and they have to be talented. Everyone around this has to be a talent in what they are doing. That was great for me. It was coming together with all my passion for cars, with all my passion for the machines working. So from starting with a garage and then watching Formula One during Sunday lunches, the big Italian fat lunch over Sundays, I was thinking, well, probably I should then become an engineer. And the more I was getting into the Formula One race, the more I was watching documentaries about aerodynamics, mechanical design, everything that had to do, especially with the simulation of a car in a wind tunnel. And that was the moment that I was, this is it. Also because for me, it's very important to say that as people in STEM, let's say science, technology, mathematics, and engineering, we tend to think that beauty, aesthetics, art, music are out of the equation because it's just mathematics, especially when you are an engineer. Engineers build things, they don't create, which is something that I really don't like, because engineers have to have an extremely creative flow to make such of these masterpieces happen. And for me, there was a lot of creative side coming from my mother, because my mom is a makeup artist and she loves art. She loves paintings. She's extremely creative. She was tailor making dresses for me, for her. She's always been that kind of very eccentric person. And I love that too. I love the technology, the technology edge of a car. But I love the idea that I could be a creative person. I love art. I love philosophy. Those are my major subjects. They were my major subjects during high school, the ones that I was in love with, together with mathematics and physics. So I wanted to join the two things together. And the more I was watching Formula One aerodynamics, the more I was looking at how they were simulating cars in the wind tunnels, I realized that aerodynamics was actually giving beauty and colors to something that is all around us, which is air. And the entire map of velocity and the thermal exchange of air and the car or any other object was in a form of a rainbow color on a rainbow spectrum. That for me was beauty. That was for me the moment in which I understood that there was no overlap between my two major subjects, engineering as technology, cars, anything that has to do with that, and the art of my mother. So basically I said, where do I start studying aerodynamics? I want to know everything about aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, how they work. How do I make those colors happen if I'm doing the simulation? So I basically went up on a website of my university in Naples, Federico II, and I started scrolling through all the different things that you could do. And I finally found a place where I could study aerodynamics. And that one was aerospace engineering. So I said, that's it. I'm going to be an aerospace engineer. I'm going to become an expert in aerodynamics. I'm going to work on Formula One cars. That was my standard at the time. I wanted to do that. And also I wanted to move to Germany. I wanted to learn new cultures. I wanted to see how do you create together with other people that have different opinions, that speak a different language. So everything that was around that word for me was something that was extremely transformative and inspirational. So it was about time when I was 18 to tell people that I wanted to be an engineer and to basically start going to the university. And that was the moment where I found most of the resistance. And that was social and cultural resistance, starting from my ex-boyfriend, who was studying engineering as well. And his dad, where he would say, why would you want to do that? People, neighbors, why do you think you're going to succeed? Don't you think it's too difficult? No one in your family is an engineer. You don't have the money. You don't belong there. You don't know anybody. How are you going to get your first job? In Italy, it's very difficult. Engineering is just for, a couple of people that know each other. And if you want to go abroad, do you know that you have to speak other languages? And by the way, why don't you just find a rich boy and become a housewife? So those were a couple of statements that were resisting my change to where I was at the time, to where I wanted to be. As I've always been a very stubborn person, I didn't listen to any of those. I knew that the way I was going to contribute to the industry was for me meaningful. But most of all, I knew that I was not that story. I was not that young girl coming from a small town in the south of Italy who was very quiet and didn't have much friends because she was definitely feeling alienated. Who was bullied when she was a child because she was a geek and she was overweight and she just didn't like do girly things. She wanted to talk science. She wanted to speak with boys. She didn't want to go around and find a boyfriend. So I'm coming from a background of bullying, a background of not believing, a background of being extremely poor, because in the moment I started my university, the business of my dad bankrupted, which means there were days where I didn't have the money to pay for my university fees. There were days where I didn't have energy at home, like proper light, energy, power at home to have the lights and study. So I remember that exactly for my favorite subject, which is aerodynamics, I was studying with candles, which made me feel a lot like Leonardo da Vinci. So that was cool. There were days where I didn't have water at home. There were days where I couldn't even get to the university because I didn't have the money for a ticket train. There were difficult days. On top of that, there was a voice of the entire community. You see, you are not fit for this. You see, you can't do that because, you don't have the means. You see, this is not for you. You see, this is difficult. Why don't you just marry your boyfriend? You see, this is not for you. Do you see how many things you are going against? You see, this is not, this means that you have to just change. So I was constantly working through what I was meant to do with the few means that I had. I was going in the morning to the university against all odds. I was going there and I was meshing all of my subjects, all of them. I had to be the best at everything, because if there was something that now it was my duty, was to prove everybody wrong, against all odds, against my appearance, against my past, against my social background, against everything that people were telling me. I had to prove them wrong. It had become for me a provocation. I had to show them and then become, let's say, not a role model, become an example to anybody in that community and beyond my community, that everything that they say you can't do, all the means, the financial means that you don't have, anything that's all the odds that are going against you, they are just excuses for people not to pursue what they really want. And for the other ones to say, you see, I told you you were going to fail. I had to go against all of those. So I was great at my subjects. And even though many people would tell me, oh, well, just because you look nice, so the professor gave you the best, grade. So that also came around. Anyway, I knew that I had a mission. That was my first mission. I had to prove everyone wrong. I was going to the university in the morning, borrowing books from friends, from anybody. I was working in the afternoons, and I was studying at night with my candles and my cat. And that was repeating over and over and over again. But that didn't demotivate me. It gave me even a bigger boost of motivation, because I knew that I loved what I was doing. And I knew that I could have changed. I changed my path completely. I knew that the place where I was, it wasn't me that was the wrong person. It wasn't me that was the alien. It was the boundary conditions around me that were wrong. I knew that there was a place for me in this entire vast universe where I could just give my entire contribution. So I was just going on the university, getting my subjects and so on and so on and so forth, to the point where I started annoying teachers at university because I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to see other things. I wanted to live in communities that weren't mine. I wanted to have confrontation, exchanges, cultural, social, religious exchanges, political exchanges. So it happened that in 2013, during a random August summer night, I received an email from my aerodynamics professor, and he's asking me if I know anybody who is fit for this role. It was an internship in a small company in Berlin that was working for the German Space Agency. So the role was aerothermofluid dynamic expert for the JPL NASA mission InSight. I was, wow, that's a very good title. And I think I have all the cards here to play and get this role. So this is what actually happened. Again, against all odds, against anybody that was saying, you don't know German, you don't know anybody there. Do you know how many people are going to apply in Europe? Do you realize it's a job with NASA? Do you realize it's a Mars mission? You have no experience. I said, fine, I don't have no experience, which means I'm going to try. And if it doesn't go okay, fine. If it goes, it means that I'm one of the few Europeans working on a Mars mission. So I think that it's worth trying. So I tried. I sent my CV. In 2 weeks, I packed all my stuff, all my 23 years of life in 2 bags. I moved to Berlin and I started working on the Mars mission, the InSight. The HPQ probe, which is now on Mars, is drilling the soil of Mars. And when that happened in 2019, when I saw that lander going to Mars and the instrument being moved onto the surface of Mars, I actually cried because that was the culmination of all the no's, all the don'ts, all the can'ts that I was told for my entire life up to that moment. And it's still very emotional to today, because it's like, I told you, I was going to show you who was right and who was wrong. So that was great. It was one of the few successes that I hold very dear in my heart. And it's one of those when you look back 5 years back and think, well, 5 years earlier, I was studying aerodynamics in my room with no lights whatsoever. And now I'm working with an international team on a Mars mission. So everything that I thought and I've done and all the hard work is actually paid off. So that was my start into rocket science and space engineering rather than Formula One. From that moment on, I'm not saying it's been any easier. And not because of the social resistance, but because obviously you enter into the industry. So it's pretty tough, especially when, again, we are talking about a space industry where women are still in minority. So after that project with the Mars mission, with the Inside Mars mission, I was meant to go back to Italy and finish my master degrees because, yeah, I was still studying. I was still a student at the time. I had just done my bachelor degree, but I was offered a job. So I decided to stay. And again, because I was trained already for hard work, I was working in the morning in the job at my job as a fluid dynamic and thermal engineer. And I was studying in the evening for my bachelor degree. This went on until I finished my studies, and until to the point where after 5 years of experience, hands-on simulations, CubeSats, satellites, downlink data, coding, testing, project management, research and development, I realized that I was ready for something bigger. Something bigger again, against all odds. I was very unsatisfied with my life at the time because, again, I had reached my plateau. I'm still one that learns very fast and gives 300% into any of the projects that she's doing. So I reached my plateau. I knew that there was something more that I could do. And I couldn't achieve that more into the industry I was. Also, my personal relationship with my partner was kind of fading out because we were just growing. From the early 20s we met to the 30s, we were growing apart. Our ambitions, values, purposes were very different. So in 2018, I decided, after 5 years where I settled my home, we were just, headed to marriage, and my life was pretty much set. I decided to change everything again before I turned 30. I wrote that note on my desk, and I said, before you turn 30, Bianca, you better change everything because nothing of your life is making you happy. I did that. In 2018, I was hired by Airbus Defence and Space in the UK to be a thermal product manager for telecommunication satellites, and I've been working on those basically until a week ago, because now I've changed job again. So during those past 3 years, I was the youngest and only woman product manager on the disruptive innovation of telecommunication spacecraft, and the only woman under 30 in a boardroom at Airbus Defence and Space. When I got there and I saw that I was the only one, I was looking around and I was like, why? Well, that's cool. It's great. I feel very proud. I'm representing the humanhood here, but where are all the other ones? From that moment on, I realized that there was, well, I knew it already, but I had to do something, because I had done so much for myself over the past 30 years. It was time for me to do something more for all the other women and all the other students out there. So basically I said, okay, during my years here, I'm going to smash it again from a technological point of view, but I want to do something that is purposeful, that has a meaning, that is showing new rising stars, women, that we basically can do anything we put our heart and mind at. And there is no can't, no don't, no whatever. And I want more women in this boardroom. Tomorrow, I want to see 3, 5, 10, until we reach that finally 50-50 in a boardroom of executives. And so I started my journey as a science communicator, again, against many voices that are telling me that I shouldn't post my pictures because at the end, I'm just a pretty girl. Or I shouldn't talk science with red lipstick because that's not the way we talk science. or I shouldn't be doing that, I shouldn't be doing the other thing, whatever. At any stage of your life, you are going to get something that people don't like. You're going to get some remarks. So again, because I was ready, I had done that all my life, I just kept going and going and going, to the point where now I moved on to a director position for a tech startup in Atlanta. And again, I'm one of the few young women in tech that can say they are in boardrooms. So I've done the other step. I jumped onto that side again, and I'm here representing now all of us girls, women who feel like they are unfit to anything that science means or tech means. All the women that have been bullied, that have been harassed, that have been told they are not enough, that have been told they are not fit for the job, that they've been told that they don't have to wear a skirt, they don't have to wear a low-cut shirt, they don't have to wear red lipstick, they don't need to have tattoos, have one, plenty. They don't need to have piercings, they don't need to do that, they can't do whatever. I want to represent all of those outliers who have been told that they had to be a certain stereotype to be a rocket scientist, to be a scientist, to be a chemist, to be a physicist. I am the representation alive that past, heritage, social conditionings, culture, appearance don't matter anything when you have a purpose, when you have a passion, when you are curious, when you are an engaged person with life. So my three lessons here that I want to tell you is that if you feel like you were an alien in the STEM industry, in the tech industry, or in the early stages of your studies in your community, there is nothing wrong with you. You are in the wrong place. I felt like a lone wolf for mostly all my life, to the point I realized that I just needed to find my wolf pack, because I wasn't alone. Many other wolves were feeling alone out there just because we hadn't found each other. And now I found it. So I'm not feeling like an alien anymore. Although some people say I am, because I'm very spaced out all the time in the outer space. But you are not the problem. The place, the society, the conditionings, the cultural heritage where you are the problem. You are not. Do not think that you have to fit into a box, into a stereotype, into a framework of things. Caravaggio, when he used to paint, he never fit into any frameworks of canvas. He's one of the most amazing painters in our history. No one that has done visionary things, no one that has changed the words, no one that has changed perceptions about people, roles, definitions, jobs, has done something that didn't express all of their potential. Your potential is your story. Owning your story, your roots, and saying, this is where I come from, but this is where I'm going, because I'm not that person. I'm the person that I see myself being. That is where you have to look at. The second lesson, if anybody is telling you you can't do something, they are just giving you one more reason to do that. One more reason out of all the ones that you already know you have to achieve that dream, to do it and prove them that if they keep saying you can't do something, they are just being your biggest cheerleaders. Anytime someone is telling me I can't do something, I do that 3 times better than even expected. So I'm telling them, if you are trying to drag me down, just don't say I can't do something, because I'm going to do it and you are going to watch. And that's just one more thing I'm adding to my CV. And the third one is being in the STEM industry, in tech, engineering, science. It's fun. It's extremely fun. And this is something that possibly is that one part that is not really retaining women or approaching them in a way that is engaging, that is cool. It's because its thought is such a rigid, linear way of thinking, of doing, of creating, that women tend to go out of it, tend to do something else. It's not. There is a lot of creativity, there is a lot of flow, there is a lot of fun. Anytime I speak about science, anytime I'm talking about space technology, spacecraft, planets, orbits, thermal engineering, equations of aerodynamics, anytime I talk about that, I am having fun. And anytime I work on a new project or I'm proposing a new project, for me is the curiosity of the child, the inner child that was once in a garage with her dad, watching it, all these pieces of a puzzle, making up a Ferrari. Keep that curiosity, keep that inner child, because that is the major energy kick that you need to really excel in anything that you are doing. Do not think that you have to fit in any boxes. There is no box that can contain potential of an individual, or a vision, or a mission, or a purpose. Do anything that they tell you can't do, because otherwise they won't, and it's not what you want. Third, have fun. Have fun. Science, technology, engineering, physics, mathematics, it's fun, it's artistic, it's beautiful, it's aesthetic. My entire look is futuristic. I live and breathe space technology, even through my jewelry, because I love what I do. I love speaking about it. And when you love something, you are going to wake up every single day ignoring any kind of remarks that people are going to tell you, ignoring everything, because you know that what you are doing, your contribution to the evolution of the humankind, is more important, is more meaningful than any kind of comments that are coming your way, just because nobody has seen such a beautiful, wonderful masterpiece as you are, doing something that is also changing the course of our life. And I hope that somehow this will help you next time that someone is coming around saying that because of whatever reason, you were not fit, you were not enough, you will not be able, you will fail. I hope you will remember a rocket scientist that is now speaking to you, that was studying with a candle once and a cat on her lap, and she landed a mission on Mars. Remember that. Remember that you can be that next one person, even landing on the moon yourself. Thank you.